Thought we'd try to create an interesting little border effect for the holiday season, but of course that could be applied to anything. And all we're going to do is take advantage of some of the built-in shapes. This is the set called Nature. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Nature set of custom shapes that includes some snowflakes. So all we're going to do is pick one of them. And I've just got it set on to draw a pixel. I don't need paths or anything like that. So I'll just make roughly the size that I want. And I'm going to make a small selection around it just to tell Photoshop this is the part that I want to make as a brush. And while it's still selected, I also want to apply a bit of a blur, because ultimately I'm going to want to end up with a series of snowflake type brushes, and I want at least one or two with a softer edge. So I'm going to blur, that's probably a little too much, just blur a little bit, something like that. And again, choose Define Brush Preset. Now, needless to say, lots of variations on this theme. You could make the custom shape as a vector shape and edit it and so on. That's all well and good. You could certainly do that. In my case, though, I'm just going to go with, I've already previously made a couple of brushes using that same technique just for the purpose of time. Now, in order to be able to see this effect, I'm going to have to do a couple of things. This, by the way, is my annual family picture, this time for our first ever Florida, matching outfits on the beach kind of hokey thing. Aren't we cute? All right, so here's what we're going to do. As I was saying that, I just held down Option or Alt and double click to make this an editable layer, and then I'm going to click Command or Control click on create a new layer to make a new layer below. And you can of course make this any contrasting color you want. I think I'm going to choose kind of a light blue color just so we have something there to contrast. Okay, so now back on this layer, I'm going to add a layer mask, make a basic selection. I want to make sure that at least this part of the photo is very visible. So what I'm going to do is invert that selection and fill it with black so that the blue underneath shows through. So if we look, our layer mask looks like this. Okay. Now, with that still selected, so I'm still on the layer mask, I'm going to take my path tool. My paths palette. I'm saying path tool because I'm going to go in here and I'm going to choose, make sure it's set on paths, and I'm going to use the freeform pen tool, because basically what I want to do is just draw some weirdo kind of path like this. You'll see why in a moment, because right now it just looks weird. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to actually have Photoshop paint along the path for us automatically. So to do that, we have to do a couple of things. First of all, make sure we're still on the layer mask, which we are. Make sure our foreground color is white. Make sure we have our brush tool. Now I'm going to go get one of those snowflakes that I made, and we'll use just the basic one first. And I also want to adjust the way this brush tool is going to work, because right now it looks like this. I need to adjust this somewhat. So I need to change the spacing. I can decide if I want different sizes and different diameters and so on. We'll go with this for now. So that's the basic. I think I want it to be a little smaller actually. So now that I make sure that I'm on the layer mask, I go back to the paths palette, and this button right here is to stroke path with brush, and it really means your current brush. Oh, one other thing I want to do, I want the opacity to be around 70% or so. And these are, of course, all things you can experiment with. But now what's going to do is going to paint with this brush along this weird path that I created using the different options in the brush tool, so I'll get a whole bunch of weird looking little snowflakes. So at this point I can delete that path, make another one that's going to be a little different. Something like that will do. Go back to my brush tool, pick a different brush. Now this time I'm going to pick one of the other ones I did previously. These are ones using the same method I showed you before. And again, bring in the brushes palette. I want to change the spacing. Something like that. And this one I want to have them rotate a little more and maybe change the size a little more too. These are again all just different options to choose. And then as I did before, click on that paths. You get the idea that you're basically building up various snowflakes on top of each other. Now, because the brush opacity is set so low at the moment, I can see a little too much of my original border. So I'm going to do a bit of painting myself. I'm going to put the opacity back up again and just do, I don't want a hole in my head, for example, or my son's head. So I'm just going to do little bits of painting here and there to kind of fill in the gaps so we don't get quite so noticeable a border. And of course you could switch just to a regular brush at this point as well. But the other thing I might do is just periodically click out in the open here and there so we see a little more noticeable kind of snowflake look. Now let's just go back to a more standard kind of brush at this point, because I want to just make sure that this edge in here doesn't look quite so obvious with that line, and the same in here. Just kind of like that. So the whole idea is to try and create an interesting border effect using some shape, in this case snowflakes, and of course we could do other things like putting a drop shadow on here if we wanted to make it a little more obvious. Just a very slight little drop shadow, something like that. And there's our finished result. So go to town, just try some different things, and the key is make 2 or 3 different brushes and play around with this brushes palette to change some of the settings and get some interesting effects. Go try it yourself, won't you? Now, you've heard me say this just about every movie I've done, and that is now it's up to you to experiment and have fun with this, but discover what else you can use to apply this same concept to your photos. So have fun with it. I'm Dave Cross. Happy holidays. Good wishes to you and your family, and have a whole lot of fun this holiday time. See you next time.